welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here today. So let's just dive right into it. Today, we are cracking the IGCSE exam code. Think of me as your insider, kind of like someone leaking the ultimate cheat codes to completely demystify the Cambridge marking system for you. You're about to see the exam from the other side of the desk, through the eyes of the actual examiner. Because here's the thing, most students study incredibly hard. They're literally memorizing textbooks cover to cover, but they still drop grades. And it's just because they simply don't know the rules of the game. They treat exams like this giant memory test, when in reality, it's a highly structured, strategic exercise. We're going to change your entire approach starting right now. Here is our strategic roadmap for this explainer. We're covering 5 key hacks. First, cracking the command words. Second, the mark-to-minute rule. Third, mastering the PEL method. Fourth, hacking the 6-mark science. And finally, winning the evaluation game. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, cracking the command words. Now, consider this core question for a second. Why do straight-A students lose marks? You'd probably instinctively think it's a lack of knowledge, right? Or maybe test anxiety. Actually, scratch that. It's a total myth. The really painful truth is that highly prepared students often lose marks because they misinterpret the hidden rules of the question. They write beautifully, accurately, and extensively about the completely wrong thing. Think of your knowledge kind of like a plant. If the command word on your paper is describe, the examiner literally just wants to see the surface. The leaves, the stem, the visible facts. They want the what. So, for example, just listing the steps of photosynthesis. But if the command word is explain, they demand the why. They want you to dig up the roots, show the mechanisms, or the cause and effect links. Listen, writing a brilliant, highly complex explanation of why something happens when the question merely asks you to describe what happens, that earns you absolutely 0 extra points. It just drains your precious time. So let's act as a translator for the rest of the examiner's secret language. If you see state or identify, they just want basic knowledge. Literally one clear sentence or even a quick bulleted list. Done. Outline means you need to give the main points with a really short link to the context, but no deep wandering detail. 2 sentences max. Now, analyze steps it up a notch. Here you absolutely must show cause and effect. How and why do things happen? And finally, evaluate. This is the heavy hitter. You need to weigh up the arguments, show both sides fairly, and make a firmly supported judgment. If you know this language, you know exactly which skill is being tested before your pen even touches the paper. Okay, moving right along to Section 2, the mark-to-minute rule. So, the number 1. This is the golden rule of the exam economy. Marks are your currency, and you purchase 1 mark with exactly 1 minute of your time. Period. This one simple formula should change everything about how you pace yourself. A 4-mark question, it gets exactly 4 minutes of your life. No more.
So, how do we actually master this economy? First, use the 2-pass method. Spend about 70% of your time securing all those easy wins, the questions you just know instantly. Grab that low-hanging fruit. Then use the remaining 30% for the difficult, complex parts. Think of those early, easy questions as an investment. This leads us directly to time banking. If you finish a simple 2-mark question in 30 seconds, you haven't just saved time, you've essentially banked 90 seconds of currency to fund a much harder, more lucrative question later on. And the absolutely crucial point here is that last step, stop writing. Seriously, once you hit the mark requirement, you must move on. Extra sentences are not rewarded by the Cambridge mark scheme.
I love this quote because it just perfectly summarizes the mindset of a top-tier test taker. The skill is knowing when to stop, not how much you can write. This saves time and protects your marks. Remember, the examiner is just ticking boxes according to a rigid rubric. They aren't grading your passion for the subject. Please do not write a passionate love letter to biology when a simple bullet point will do. Over-explaining a simple 2-mark identify question is such a classic rookie mistake. Give them what they asked for and stop. Right, let's move to Section 3, mastering the PEL method. If you want to score full marks on those intimidating 6 or 8-mark questions, you need the PEL formula. Look, Cambridge examiners are reading hundreds of papers. They are tired. They crave crisp, simple structures. So make their job easy. Step 1 is point. Clearly state your main idea to directly answer the question. Step 2 is explain. Use your actual subject theory to explain exactly why this point makes sense. Step 3 is example. Apply a real-world example or use the specific context provided in the paper. And finally, Step 4 is link. Evaluate the point or link it directly back to the original question. One solid PEL paragraph per point creates the exact logical flow the examiner is desperately looking for. Let's see this in action on a real economics paper. Say you're asked to discuss if a government subsidy to fruit producers actually benefits consumers. Don't just list random thoughts that pop into your head. Build a peel paragraph. Make your point. Subsidies lower production costs. Explain the mechanism. Lower costs shift supply outwards. Give the example. Banana prices dropping in local grocery stores. Then link it back. Explain how this specifically benefits consumers' overall purchasing power. Build one peel paragraph for the benefits and another one for the drawbacks. And boom, you have perfectly structured an 8-mark answer.
Let's shift gears a bit to Section 4, Hacking the 6-mark Science. So unlike some essay subjects that use level-based grading, those infamous 6-mark questions in biology, chemistry, and physics, they use a strict, brutal, point-by-point marking system. To conquer these, you need a very exact structural formula. 6 distinct points must link logically together, kind of like setting up dominoes. You begin with Step 1, the starting condition. This triggers Step 2, Mechanism 1, which inexorably leads to Step 3, Effect 1. You then just continue this logical chain reaction into Step 4, Mechanism 2, and Step 5, Effect 2, until you finally reach Step 6, the final outcome. It's quite literally a chain reaction of scientific logic.
But here is the catch. The absolutely crucial point is how you connect those steps. You must use linking language in every single sentence because, therefore, as a result, which leads to, if your sentences can just stand alone without the previous one, you are merely describing, you're not explaining. And remember our very first rule, describing when you are explicitly asked to explain instantly captures score and loses you marks. Don't fall into that trap. Okay, I want to share a highly tactical hack specifically for biology. When you see a 6-mark question, just pause. Don't just start writing blindly in a panic. First, quickly jot down a custom word bank of key scientific terms related to the question's topic in the margins. Then, over-deliver just a tiny bit. Write 8 precise, linked sentences using those vocabulary words. Because the mark scheme is point by point, giving 8 distinct, logically linked points virtually guarantees you capture all 6 available marks, even if 1 or 2 of your points slightly miss the mark. It's an incredible safety net. All right, we made it to our final chapter, Section 5, Winning the Evaluation Game. This is where we focus on those highest tier questions, those 8-mark or 12-mark beasts. This is exactly where the top grades, the A's and A-stars, are actually won or lost. To win this game, you have to show Cambridge the much bigger picture. Basic analysis says something like, lower interest rates increase consumer spending. I mean, it's true, but it's basic. It's totally one-sided. Now check out the evaluated answer. Although lower interest rates increase spending, their effect depends on consumer confidence. That little phrase, "it depends on," is absolute magic. It signals to the examiner that you aren't just reciting facts like a robot, you are thinking critically about real-world complexities, conditional outcomes, and the need for balance. Let's see how this builds in an actual business paper. Imagine a question asking for 2 methods of internal communication, ending with that brutal command word, justify which method should be chosen. When you see justify or evaluate, simply picking an option and saying why it's a good idea is absolutely not enough. You haven't fulfilled the criteria, and your marks are going to be severely capped. To score those full evaluation marks, you must use this ultimate formula. First, show both sides of the argument clearly, the pros and the cons. Second, state decisively which side is better and exactly why. Third, explicitly use the word overall to signal to the examiner that your final considered judgment has arrived. You're dropping the gavel. And finally, directly link that decision back to the specific context given in the question. A balanced argument without a clear, context-linked final judgment is essentially a failed mission. Which brings us to our final provocative thought for this explainer. Are you ready to stop just writing and start actually scoring? Because you are now fully equipped with the secret language of command words. You've established the rigid mark-to-minute economy, you've mastered the PL method for those long answers, hacked the science structural flow, and completely unlocked the evaluation game. The rules? They are no longer hidden from you. So take these frameworks into your next exam, play the game strategically, and systematically drain every single available mark from that rubric. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning smartly.